It occurred to me that these critics, who have long recited our state's decline, perhaps have nothing to say in the face of California's comeback, except, please, don't report it. Well, I'm going to report it, and what a comeback it is. 1 million new jobs since 2010. A budgetary surplus in the billions. In the billions. But don't spend it, that's the point. And a minimum wage rising to $10 an hour. This year, Californians have a lot to be proud of. For a decade, budget instability was the order of the day. A lethal combination of national recessions, improvident tax cuts, and too much spending created a financial sinkhole that defied every effort to climb out. But 3 years later, here we are, with state spending and revenues solidly balanced and more to come. And while we know our revenues will fluctuate up and down, our long-term liabilities are enormous, and they're ever growing. Let me list some of them. Well over $100 billion for pensions owed to our state workers, teachers, and judges. Tens of billions needed. By the way, judges, it's $3 billion, just so you kind of understand. You're part of the problem, too. But it's only $3 billion. Teachers and public employees are well over 100. Tens of billions are needed to cover retiree health care, more like $60 billion. And $65 billion is needed to maintain and keep our roads and our buildings and our other infrastructure in sound repair. And we must also account for future risks that could negatively affect our budgets, like congressional decisions, natural disasters, and the uncertain costs of the Affordable Care Act. So we can't go back to business as usual. Boom and bust is our lot, and we must follow the ancient advice recounted in the book of Genesis that Joseph gave to the Pharaoh. Put away your surplus during the years of great plenty, so you'll be ready for the lean years which are sure to follow. Most governors and legislators in modern times have forgotten this advice. This time we won't do that. We'll pay down our debts and remember the lessons of history. I've convened an interagency drought task force, declared a state of emergency. We need everyone in every part of the state to conserve water. We need regulators to rebalance water rules and enable voluntary transfers of water. And we must prepare for forest fires. As the State Water Action Plan lays out, water recycling, expanded storage, and serious groundwater management must all be part of the mix. So too must investments in safe drinking water, particularly in the disadvantaged communities. We also need wetlands and watershed restoration and further progress on the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. It's a tall order, but it is what we must do to get through this drought and get ready for the next one. We do not know how much our current problems derives from the buildup of heat-trapping gases, but we can take this drought as a stark warning of things to come. The United Nations Panel on Climate Change says with 95% confidence that human beings are changing our climate. This means more droughts, more extreme weather events, and in California, more forest fires and less snowpack. In terms of greenhouse gases, our biggest challenge remains the amount of gasoline Californians use. Each year, our motor vehicles use more than 14 billion gallons of gasoline to travel 330 billion miles. I said billion. To put those numbers in perspective, the sun is 93 million miles away. Reducing our oil consumption, 2/3 of which is imported by ships and tank cars, increasingly, will take time. It'll take breakthrough technologies and steadfast commitment. It will also require that the countries which burn the most fossil fuel join with us. We started building those partnerships with other states and countries like China. We'll go to Mexico next because California can't do it alone. The Oxford Dictionary defines subsidiarity as the idea that a central authority should have a subsidiary function, performing only those tasks which cannot be performed effectively at a more immediate or local level. No better example of this can be found than in your enactment last year of a local control funding formula. This was a major breakthrough in the way funds are allocated to California school, so that our laws explicitly recognize the difficult problems faced by low-income families and those whose first language is other than English. As a result, those with less are going to receive more, and that's good for all of us. But something else is at work in this local funding formula. Instead of prescriptive commands issued from headquarters here in Sacramento, more general goals have been established for each local school to attain, each in its own way. This puts the responsibility where it has to be, in the classroom and at the local district. In a similar vein, in the field of public safety, we've changed historic practices in our prison system and transferred significant responsibilities to local authorities. The federal courts, backed up by the United States Supreme Court, have ordered major reductions in our prison population and dramatic improvements in the medical and mental health programs that the states makes available. In response, we transferred the supervision of tens of thousands of lower level, I didn't say low level, I said lower level, offenders from the state to our 58 counties. This realignment is bold and far-reaching, but it's also necessary under the circumstances, and local law enforcement has risen to the occasion.